much for coming in so well, and I hope you all had a lovely half-term break. We've put on this extra assembly for you this morning to kind of go through some of the logistics for kind of next week and the week after and a couple of weeks' time. At the end of year 10, what we always do is we always have end of year 10 tests that happen in class time. So in particular in maths, for example, that you might have a past paper that you do in lesson time that's split across lessons. And what we thought this year, with everything that you've been through in terms of COVID the last 2 years, etc., you've not really had the chance to sit any tests within a big hall environment all at the same time. If you remember back to the actual year 10 mocks in January, we had them in classrooms, and that was done splitting the year group, and the reason why we did that was to make sure that we could build up your stamina and build up your resilience to kind of these types of exams. And what we thought is that there's a number of subjects like geography and history and French and maths whereby they lend themselves really well to end of year exams in the hall, and we want to try and slot them in amongst our GCSE actual timetable. At the moment we've obviously got the GCSEs on. It's week 3 this week, and our year 11s finish and go on study leave or stand down day from next Wednesday. And at that point, you effectively become into the last hour of your clock of time in the formal school environment. You started back in reception in year 1 at the start of the clock face, and now, as of next week, you're in the last hour. Okay? And that might start to focus a few people's more minds. You're actually in the running now. Everything you do now is building up to this time next year. And it might seem a long way off, but getting the preparation right now is a massive, massive incentive to kind of avoid the stresses at the end when we come to this time next year. Lots of the students who are succeeding and doing really well now in year 11 have tackled each of their practice tests in the right way. Okay? They've revised for them, they've prepared for them. Same thing for their mock exams in January, same thing for their mock exams in March, and then for the real thing, it just becomes like water for the duck's back. So what we want to do for these end of year 10 exams, these end of year 10 tests, and it's not in every single subject, so it's only in a handful, maybe 5 or 6. What we've done is we've tried to get them scheduled as much as possible to be in a sports hall to mirror what it will be like this time next year. Because being in a large sports hall can be quite intimidating for lots of people. For lots of people in the room, it might just be like, well, it's just a sports hall, isn't it? But for others, it can be quite scary. So we need to do this slowly with you, and we need you to be aware of the processes that you and the mindsets you need to get yourselves into before going into that exam room, so that you can sit down at that chair and be really well prepared. We also need to make you aware of some of the Jcq rules and regulations now, really early on, that are dead important, so that you don't fall foul of them in the real thing, so that you don't end up being disqualified and potentially losing all your GCSEs. Okay? So this is very much an assembly that's purely logistics. So I've got Mr. Rescall videoing this, so that anyone who isn't sure about anything can watch it back. I'll send you the YouTube link once I've uploaded it later, so that you can kind of be really informed about what to do when you have one of these exams. And I always put this kind of slide on when I'm talking about any type of test. And it's the iceberg illusion, whereby what people only see at the top is the actual success. Next summer, the results you get in this summer, people only see the kind of like the end grade at the end of it. They don't see the things underneath the surface that go into that success. The failure, importantly. The kind of the sacrifice, the disappointments that you have to go through, it's part of life. The fact of revising and things not going in is in that bottom bit here. The thing I hear most often when I'm kind of guiding mentees through how to revise is, sir, it won't go in, sir, it won't stick. That is normal. It's not designed to go in the first go. It's not designed to stick. It's designed to go in gradually. That's how our minds work. Think of them as like sieves. Okay? If you've got a sieve, you pour water into it, all the water comes out, and you're left with a little bit of remnants left if you've got one of those fine sieves. If you start stacking the sieves on top of each other, just like the revision, the water starts to seep through it much more slowly, and the rate of loss and the rate of decay in terms of your revision is much slower and you start to retain things much better. Okay? In terms of next week and the week after, you'll see that these end of year tests are really spread about. The reason why that is because we are trying to do them at the same time as the GCSEs are happening across in the sports hall. The reason why we're doing all of that is we're going to have, in about 4 weeks' time, some building work start as well. So it becomes incredibly logistically difficult for us to try and do our tests in the sports hall as a real-life kind of mock experience, but we think it's worthwhile. We think it's worth doing. We think it's worth doing for you, so you get that kind of experience of what it's like to be in a massive hall, sitting down at a table for 90 minutes, 2 hours at a time. So our first one is on Tuesday the 14th of June in the afternoon, and then next Friday we've got an English language one on Friday the 17th of June, and a history exam in the afternoon. Now, you have all got your individual timetables. They were handed out by Mrs. Regan just before we broke up. And on those individual timetables, it'll tell you what exam you've got on which day, and importantly, the location, like sports hall, or P2, or careers office, or one of the smaller rooms, and it'll tell you your seat number. And that's very important to remember, because how we have our hall laid out is in rows of A to T, and then from seats 1 to 10, okay? And we have them laid out, and you have to sit in a very specific seat. And the reason for that is you'll find a card, an ID card on your desk. And the reason why we have to have those is a Jcq inspector can come in and ask to inspect and check who you are in an exam. And it happened 2 Wednesdays ago. We had our Jcq inspector come in for our English language exam. She walked into our English language exam for our Year 11s and just picked up a card and had to try to identify the person who sat on that particular desk. Okay? That's basically the rules that we follow are exactly like the Jcq rules that we have next summer. So as I said, you'll have your own little personalised timetable, and it'll tell you exactly where to sit and when. Now, mentioned already the logistic challenge of trying to get all these exams fitted in and trying to avoid clashes and doing all kinds of things. Lots of you have got the word clash on your timetable in brackets. If that is you, do not worry. All that means is you're sitting that particular subject at that particular time to avoid a clash that we are aware of. So for example, on Friday the 17th of June, on Friday the 24th of June, I'm aware that there's an art trip going out in London. So I'm aware that the second maths exam and the PE and the French writing, some of those students who do art won't be able to do maths and those exams then because they're out on the art trip. So their maths and French have been delayed until the following Wednesday or the following Monday. Your individual timetable tells you where you should be. So you're not having to try and remember this and remember where you fit in, all the rest of it. You just look at your exam timetable, you look at the 5 or 6 tests that you've got on there, and it will say, Tuesday the 21st of June, food. Boom, do that. 5 or 6 of you might have on the 21st of June actually the word maths, because you've got a clash from a previous trip that's also out. We're aware of lots of trips, we're aware of lots of things that are going on in the background, so your job is to look just at your own timetable and tell you where to go and when. Okay? When we get to the 3rd and final week here, you'll notice that it says in Archbishop Suite, that takes over. So we'll move away from the sports hall. We want you to have an experience of sitting the exams in the sports hall. But that 3rd week there is the week that the building work is due to start on our school to try and make our student experience a little bit better. So as a result, we're having to kind of collapse down things that involve you coming in and out of PE corridors and around kind of near there. So we're having to do things and plan things around the logistics of building work going on too, which is why you might see these things on here, the PE clashes and the smaller exams happening there. So you've all got your timetables. Importantly, it says the seating numbers and exam locations, and you must sit in those seats as per the Jcq exam regulations. Now, here's the important bit, here's the logistics of how that exam works. Imagine it's next Tuesday. We would normally have, oops, pointing in the wrong direction. Tuesday the 14th of June, we'll have an assembly tomorrow, next Tuesday morning. Happens as normal. In the afternoon, we've got our maths exam. What do we do? Do we go to lessons? What happens? Well, we follow the exact same procedure that our Year 11 GCSE classes are doing. So that afternoon, what you will do is you will go straight to the hive. Okay? Now, I've kind of jumped ahead a bit of myself there because I'm talking about morning exams here, but I'll go with it here. For morning exams, this is the procedure. Breakfast club's open from 8 o'clock, so you can come in, sit down, and kind of do a bit of revision. 8:30 school opens, and you go to your form rooms. At 8:40, if you've got a morning exam, your form tutor will take the register. Okay? Then at 8:41, you will then leave your room and go to the hive. And you will come and sit down in the hive in our holding room. This is a pre-exam holding room that we have to get you organised into the rows you need to be so we can feed you into the exam hall in silence, and so I can check that you've got the right equipment, and most importantly, I can check that you're not in breach of any Jcq regulations when you go in there. Making sure you've got your phones off you, you've got no paper on you, etc. Okay, so for a morning exam, if it's a whole school exam, like a maths exam in the morning, what would happen at 8:41, your form tutor would do your register, you would then walk across to the hive, your form tutor would come with you, and you'd see me there to receive you. Okay? What you then do is sit down, and then at around about 8:50, we start to get you into the exam room. Now, this bit's really important. When you do come to the hive, you must go via the top entrance. Okay? As we look at the hive now, we're looking at the top left-hand entrance mainly. And as you go in there, you will notice that the seats have got labels on them. And the seats relate and have the labels A, B, C, D, E, F, and they relate to the exact same seats that are replicated in the exam hall. So say, for example, you are in seat A2 for your maths exam. You would come in from the hive entrance at the top, and you'd walk all the way to the bottom, and you'd see 2 rows at the bottom that will be labelled ABC, ABC, and you would come and sit in one of those 2 rows because your seat number is A2. Imagine that you've got seat, I don't know, L7. What you would do is come in and go down till you found the row that had row L on it and sit anywhere on that row. Anywhere you like. You don't have to sit in the exact matching seat number on row L and M because it doesn't quite work, but you just have to sit somewhere in that row. And the reason for that is that when we get you in, I start calling off, right, rows A, B, C, stand up. You walk out of the hive, past the dance studio and into the sports hall via the fire entrance, and we basically work our way through the entry into the sports hall, 1 row at a time. So it's important when you come in, you go down and you find the seat number that matches, you find the row number that matches the seat number that you're going to be in. Okay? All with me so far? The people that doesn't affect is anyone who's in P2. Anyone who's in our access arrangements room, once registration's happened in the morning, you just come straight down here and you wait outside in the lunchbox area if there are invigilators to come and collect you. If you're in a separate room, like the careers office, or anywhere else, you just go straight there for a morning exam. Okay? What happens is you make sure you take out all your equipment and you leave your phones, etc. in your bags, and your bags get left on the seats in the hive. The hive gets locked, and we then walk into the exam, do our exam, come back and collect our things at the end. Okay? So we hold you in the exam, in the hive holding area. Okay? Please, 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 come in silence, sit down, because we're doing this just like we will do in Year 11. When you stand up and go into the exam hall, please do not communicate in any way. The invigilators will be in there. They are Jcq authorised invigilators. We want you to practice with not your teachers being the invigilators, because they won't be in the exam hall for the real thing. If you are stuck at any point, you stand still or sit still and your hand goes in the air and they will come and sort you out and help you. The only people that are allowed into that exam room are the invigilators, the exams officer and me as Mr. Barber's delegate, in case anything goes wrong. And we've had a couple of things happen in our Year 11 exams where I've had to go rushing in to try and help someone being sick, someone being poorly, etc. Those are the only people allowed in. Please do not communicate in any way. Please do not have a mobile phone or a watch on you in that exam hall. Even a bog standard watch like mine must be taken off and left in your bags. We have a massive digital clock at the top that tells you the time, and we get you through it, so don't worry about the time. Okay? Please, for your morning exams, for any exams, you'll notice that there's an ID card left on your desk. Do not graffiti on it in any way, because you need to be able to be identified by Jcq. We need to collect those back in. Some of you, because it has to have the picture on it, might see yourself from year 7. Okay, if that's the case, just turn it over, and you don't like it, just turn it over, that's fine. At the start of year 11, we take your photographs again, so that you can be clearly identified to Jcq when you come in. Period 3, it says they're revision lessons, but it's not, it's just normal lessons. Okay, these are for morning exams. Now, for afternoon exams, it's the exact same deal. Okay? What I want you to do is just disregard this line here where it says go to period 4 and register. Think of it like this. In an afternoon exam, if you've got an afternoon exam, all you do is you come down to the hive and sit in your seat at 1:20 so we can get you straight away in. Okay? When you've got an exam, you go to the hive and we sort you from there. That's the upshot of this assembly. Okay? You make sure you've got the right seat number and you come in and sit in the appropriate row. You need to look at the seats and the labels that are on those seats as you come down. Okay? Again, for afternoon exams, what happens is we get you in there, we do the whole thing, we aim to start at 1:30 so that for your 1 hour exam, your 1 hour 30 exams, they can all be done and dusted in time. Okay. Now, I'm really aware that I've kind of just ran over slightly there, so I'm just going to take that off. And I will be in your assembly next Tuesday to answer any questions you might have, and come and see me at break times and lunch times if you're worried about anything. Okay? Crucially, the upshot from this assembly is look at your own individual timetable, find out what day you have an exam, and on those days, if it's a morning exam, go register and then come into the hive from the back. You'll find me at the front and we'll get you sat down. If it's an afternoon exam, you come in at 1:20 and you sit down and we get you in. Okay? Now, as this is an assembly, I'd just like to finish, as we always do, by asking you to bow our heads as we pray. Lord God, thank you for this opportunity to learn new skills and stretch our understanding. Thank you for guiding us through this time of study and into our exams at the end of year 10. We lay before you all the hopes and fears we have about the outcome and ask you to be with us over the next 6 weeks. Amen. Thank you very much for listening, year 10. If I could ask the front row to